Hey Duel Network, just decided to finally make a video demonstrating how to use some of the combos with Constellars, just so that if people wanted to get into the deck, they know how to use it better. So I'm pretty much going to do that. So I'm pretty much going to do this clip by clip, so I'm going to have to edit the video. So hopefully it's not too bad for you, just stick with it and hopefully learn some new things or some cool things. So thank you for watching and let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is the Shark Fortress OTK, which some people do know, some people don't know, but it's definitely a card you might want to consider running in this deck. But you're going to need these 4 Exceeds: Shark Fortress, Gaia Charger, M7, and Pleiades. Usually you want to try to go first with this opening hand, at least have a Rhoda, a Tenki, or if you don't have the Rhoda, Tenki, just automatically start off with those two, maybe even a Sombre for your second turn. But generally, you'd probably open with these two, hopefully draw into that, or have a Sheraton, or something like that. But you'd activate Tenki and Rhoda, search out Pollux and Cost, or even if you have an Algaidi, that's pretty good too, instead of Pollux or Reinforcements. Your turn 1 is going to consist of Pollux, Cost, go into Pleiades, and just sit on him, hopefully he doesn't get destroyed. They either set 2 cards or they don't set anything. If they set something, just bounce it back. And on your turn you draw, you bounce the other card back. You summon a Sombre, you banish Pollux, summon Costs, turn both of these into 5s, and create a Shark Fortress. And then create M7. Use Shark Fortress's effect on M7. And attach whatever. That makes it so M7 can attack twice now, and then you overlay Shark Fortress with Gaia Charger. Shark Fortress's effect will still apply onto M7, and that makes 8,000 damage on board since he attacks twice and he attacks once. And that's pretty much that OTK, so let's move on to the next step. The next combo is going to be a little tiny combo with Sheraton. Assuming you open Sheraton and Tensoo, you can do an Exceed right off the bat, so you're not really losing any advantage. So you can just activate Tensoo, summon Sheraton, search out Costs, use Tensoo's effect to summon Costs, make them both a 4, and you can either summon any of your generic rank 4s, or you can go for a Precipice or a Omega. Usually I would end up going with an Omega, just so the next turn if I draw Sombres or have another combo I can go off with it. But generally, if you don't use Omega's effect, it's still going to be a 2500 beater with the additional 100, so not many cards can get over it. And if they try to Dark Hole you or anything, you can just activate Omega's effect and it's going to negate it, basically. And if you don't want to do that, you can always use Precipice, and Precipice can get over any monster on the field, basically, because it can turn himself into a 3400 beater, and that's pretty cool. So that's basically it for that one. So next one. This one's a cool little trick you can do with Pleiades if you don't want to lose the card, which is going to be Vanity's Emptiness, which is really good against any deck that special summons. Vanity's Emptiness makes it so neither player can special summon as long as no cards go to your graveyard. So say if this were to get MST'd, that would go to the graveyard too. So a good way to prevent that is if they were to MST your card right here to force Vanity's Emptiness to go to the graveyard, you can activate Pleiades' effect to bring back this card to your hand. Since the material isn't considered a card on the field, it'll go to the graveyard and Vanity's Emptiness will stay on the field. So it'll still screw over your opponent while you still have a Pleiades on the field that you can just bounce a monster and attack over it. So it's pretty cool. So that's basically it for that, and this is a Tensoo. Next combo. This next one's for like a first turn against E-Dragons or Prophecies or any deck that uses like trap cards or just spell cards or just monster effects. If you want to make your first turn Shockmaster, which is actually pretty easy in this deck because usually you'll open up all 3 of these cards pretty consistently. And when I say 3, I mean you can open up Tenki, Rhoda, and like Algaidi or any like combo of these 3 cards, one of these 3. And basically, let's just say hypothetically we have Tenki, Rhoda, and Algaidi. So we would activate Tenki, we would get costs from Tenki. We'd activate Rhoda, you can get Thrasher from Rhoda, or you can get Pollux, doesn't really matter. And we just sit on our Algaidi because we drew that in our hand. So obviously after this you'd special summon your Thrasher, then you normal summon Algaidi, or cost depending on what you chose for or opened with, and then summon costs and exceed into Shockmaster, basically, if I can find it somewhere in here. Call spells depending if it's prophecy, monster effects, e-dragons, etc. So that's basically a cool little first turn move people can do to stop that matchup, since our deck pretty much has a fair matchup against those decks. So next step or combo. So depending on like if you open like a weird hand like all monsters and you have something like this, say if you go second, and they have like a face up attack position, bear for some reason with a face up Tenki that they use to search bear, and that's all they did. You can do like you can kind of do the you could already do that combo with the Shark Fortress, but hypothetically with that field and what I want to do, you could special summon Thrasher, normal summon Pollux. Pollux's effect makes Algaidi become another normal summon. Algaidi's effect to special summon, you choose Sombre, and then you would exceed with Algaidi and Pollux for Paladynamo. Paladinamo's effect will activate. Sorry if I'm doing this weird. These two will go to the grave and make your opponent's monster 0 attack, and negate the effect also. And then you can use Sombre's effect to banish Pollux from your graveyard, to add a Algaidi back to your hand, which is right here. Use Algaidi to normal summon with Sombre's effects, and Algaidi's effect will activate again to special summon costs. And then from there on you could just do something like overlay Sombre and Thrasher for Omega, and then detach or whatever you want to do with that. And then you can make costs and Algaidi 5s for Shark Fortress, and then overlay Omega for M7, and then that's basically another OTK, assuming you have all of those cards, which you kind of won't always have, but that does sometimes happen, so that's another thing you could always do. And the next combo we can do is, one tip for Constellars is if you already don't have your first turn Pleiades, basically with like an Algaidi, like if you start off with like Algaidi costs, Tenki, if you activate your Tenki, you're not going to want to search another cost because you already have that play locked down. You're going to want to get a bear. And once you have bear, you can pretty much get more Tenki searches, and that'll initially get you your more of costs if you need it, or a Tensoo if you want to make a double summon with Sheraton, like one of the previous combos I've showed you. So just keep that tip in mind if you want to search with Tenki. If you have your Pleiades play on lockdown, you don't want to get cost, you want to get bear. So next tip I have is another combo, not really a combo, but if you have M7 out, mostly you want to use these effects on either like effect veilers, maxis, sombres, or honest. I don't have any maxis or veilers mained in this deck, so I'm just going to use these for shorthandedness. Basically, you just want to use the effect, either get a Sombre back so you can make another monster with the monster you detach, basically, or Honest back so you can protect your M7 or any other monster, or Veilers to stop Dragosacks and all that stuff. You pretty much get the general idea, but you don't want to waste your cards on, like, I don't know, like Thrasher. You want to get cards that are going to give you more power for your next turn plays, so that's something to keep in mind. Next tip I have, let's say you're playing something like a mirror match where they have Pleiades with no materials, or just any generic strong monster. This is a pretty general combo people know about, but I still want to get it out in the open. You can normal summon Pollux. You can't even see that. Get costs out, make them both 5s, and I'm pretty sure after you see this card you're going to know where this is going. Volcasaurus will send Pleiades to the graveyard. They'll inflict 2,500 damage to the life points, and then after that, where is he? special summon Gaia Charger over your Volcasaur and attack. So that's basically 5100 damage right there, or depending on what monster they have out, it'll fluctuate, but that's pretty massive damage if you're like doing this late game or mid game. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you have these two cards in your extra board. So let me see if I have another combo. Hold on one second. So here's another little tip of what you can do with Pleiades' effects. Pretty general knowledge like most of the combos, but assuming they want to, let's say, Dark Hole, and you don't have a Forbidden Lance or anything like that to protect your monster, you have, in this version of my deck, you have 4 choices. Some of the other decks you have like Vanity's Emptiness or Goes and Match or Defissure, but right now you have 4 choices, either being return Pleiades to the extra board, and I would only say choose him as a target if you don't have Pleiades left in your extra board. So I run 2 right now, probably going to go to 3, so I don't even have to choose him as a target anymore. But if I only had, he was the last copy, I would send him back. Or if you have like a Pollux in your hand and you want to cost, you can just bounce this back for Tenki. So you can use this to get cost next turn and make another Pleiades if you already have another one on the board, extra board. Or you can bring a chain back just in case you don't want your opponent to have something risky on the next move. Or Tensoo, which is not really going to be your ideal choice, but it's still something you can do for like another summon to happen. So it's pretty much the main choices that you can do. Other than that, like other monsters that are on board, so Dark Hole would activate, you can just bring cost back or whatever. But that's not better than taking a Tenki back and just activating it, because that's more advantage. But yeah, so that's it for that combo. Let's just say for this example we have a face-up Omega with a Forbidden Lance face-down. So let's say they have 2 face-down cards, Dark Hole and Compulsory Evacuation Device. They activate their Dark Hole, and you activate Omega's effect to protect him from Dark Hole. And they want to chain Compulsory Evacuation Device onto your Omega. If you let that resolve, the way that would work is Omega would return to the extra deck, and basically that would be it. But if you chain your Forbidden Lance to Compulsory Evacuation Device, it'll stop the effect of Compulsory from affecting Omega, and then Omega's effect will stop Lance from working when it's lowering the attack. And then in resolution, it'll stop Dark Hole from destroying it. So basically, all that stuff, you just lost a Compulsory and a Dark Hole, you only lost your Lance, and then now your Omega is still 2400, and it's still hard to get over. So it's always pretty cool. And then next turn you can always just make a M7. So it's pretty cool. Let me see if I have another combo. So this is going to just demonstrate how I use Pleiades in battle phase, basically. So say you've already had your Pleiades out for a while and your opponent's just setting cards, and you know for a fact that they're not like activating, so they're not like cards like Compulsory or anything. Since you've been having them on the field for a while, then they would have already activated it by now. But anyway, basically what I do with Pleiades, if he's already been on board and there's already set cards now and they're not doing anything to Pleiades, I would not use his effect to bounce any of the back row. I would still just attack into the monster, and if they were to say have, I don't know, Mirror Force, then I would activate the effects, returning anything else I would have on the field, maybe a Tenki or another monster I have, or maybe even their face down monster, but I wouldn't go for their back row unless you're going to go for a game and they have an empty field. So I would pretty much just generally go for an attack on the monster, and then I would still have the bounce target for next turn if they try to do something. And mainly for this reason is you don't know if they have dead cards like Solemn Judgment. If you're not doing anything for right now, you attacking is not going to have that activate anytime soon, or MST. And like there's dead cards like that. Even Fiendish Chain, if you try to activate, say, on like the monster, then they're going to Fiendish Chain your monster. They're still going to have their monster and they can do something next turn, but I would just attack, because even with a card like Fiendish Chain, if you let Fiendish Chain stay, you can just bounce something, or if you want, and then make M7, and then Fiendish Chain's not an issue anymore. So that's pretty much something to keep in mind when you're using Pleiades to attack. And let me see if I have something else. One little tip for Bear. You mainly don't want to bring him out too early. With Bear, you want to just mainly try to make Pleiades first at all times, and then have Bear come out, and then try to get you pluses. So that way you can have a protection card for Bear if anything were to happen to Bear. If you got Darkhold, Bear can just come back with Pleiades' effect or Mirror Force, or if an attack happens, and then you can bring Bear back. But generally, you just want to have something that will protect Bear first on board. Even a card like if you already somehow have a Shark Fortress on board, Shark Fortress will stop any attacks that happen to any lower attack monsters, so they have to attack Shark Fortress first. But mainly the point is to only do this when you have protection. Don't just randomly summon it when they have like 5 cards and then like try to get an attack in. It's not the way to go. You want to try to guarantee advantage off this card, not just hope for a chance to. That's basically it for that, but let me see if I have something else. So as you notice, majority of our extra deck is light based, which Honest will protect basically everything in our deck except for Shark Fortress, Gaia, Volcasaurus, Cowboy, and Maestroke, and Bear in the main deck. So you want to use this card very carefully, unless you're gonna have M7 out eventually and then get Honest back, or Monster Reborn, and vice versa. You want to use Honest very carefully. You don't want to use Honest right off the bat. Say, for example, if you basically only had a Sheraton to start off with Honest, you don't want to summon Sheraton, grab a, let's just say, Pollux, because your chances of getting a Tenki or a Cost are higher than a Reinforcement or a Pollux. So you got a Pollux on your hand, so you're all set for next turn. You summon Sheraton and get the Pollux. You don't want to waste Honest on Sheraton, because that's just a waste just to keep a monster that's a level 3 on board. You want to hold on to it until they have a big monster out, and you want to keep it so you can deal with it. Not waste it on like a Thunder King, or if you can't get over Thunder King, might as well, but it's not the point. You want to use it to either protect your bigger monsters, like your Exceeds, like Pleiades, in case you don't want to waste Pleiades' effect on battle. You want to use it on Press Breed, just in case somehow 3400 isn't enough to get over something. Or any other example, like Paladynamo is only like a 2000 attack base stat, but after it uses effect, it's pretty much only good for a draw if it dies. So unless you want the draw, you'd use Honest after that to keep him on board, and then inflict another 2k afterwards. So, like, assuming if you do that, like you do 2k on a monster that you use the effect on, and then your next turn, Honest will drop on a monster that tries to attack over it for like 4000 from the last turn and this turn, and then next turn it's like another 2000. And if you have another monster, that's almost game, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm rambling. You want to save your Honest, basically. Don't want to use it. I see a lot of players just dropping Honest on any card they have just to protect a monster that's on board for first turn. And even if you're going to lose it for the next turn, it doesn't matter. Most monsters only live for like 1 or 2 turns anyway, so just keep that in mind, and we'll see if we have anything else to say. I guess another tip I can go over, which not many people usually go over for some reason, which I actually think is a really important point, is to tell you how to side deck against certain matches. And I'm not going to sit here talking about like samurais, how to side against them or stuff like that. Mainly just bigger decks, and usually these choices will basically be for all 3 decks. So for the monster lineup, you're not really going to want to take out anything. Except for like 1 Sheraton, and maybe if you want to, a Bear, depending on which deck you're playing against, because some decks it's not really beneficial to have Bear unless you want to just get your searches off of it. But for most matches, I would just say 1 Sheraton's enough to side out. So let's keep Sheraton right there. So I don't know, it's like a glare. So depending if you're playing against like a deck like, I would say, Prophecy or E-Dragons. Usually I do tend to side out MSTs against Prophecy. Maybe even a Tensoo. Tensoo as a card I usually side out too. I usually only use it for games that I go first in. Dark Hole sometimes I'll side out if I'm not playing a rogue deck. Sometimes I'll side out Lance if I'm playing like against E-Dragons. Lance isn't a bad card to have against E-Dragons, don't get me wrong, if you're maining it, but it's not a card you want to keep in because the only real use for Lance is against Breakthrough Skill and against Battle Phase lose 800. So I think that's generally what you want to get rid of. And against E-Dragons, you take out Heavy Storm. So that's pretty much what you're looking at for that. Against E-Dragons, traps are your best friends, so you generally want to keep all of this stuff, basically. Because your Fiendish Chains are for Dragosack, Bottomlesses are for Dragosack, Tarentulas are for Dragosacks, Compulses are for Dragosack, Warnings for Dragosack, even your Solemns for Dragosack, or a Heavy Storm mostly. But, yeah, so that's basically what we want to keep in. I guess I'll just basically go over what I would side against dragons. So, we're looking at what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. So, this is my side deck for right now. I'm probably going to put this in my side deck too. 2 of Vanity's Emptiness, so assume I have 2 Vanity's Emptiness. I would probably put Vanity's Emptiness in. So we'd have 6 more slots. Goes and matches are really good against dragons. Then I have Mind Drains. And we have a plethora of cards here. We have Mind Crushes if you want to do that, but the dragons still work in the graveyard, so it's not really that great of an idea. I like to side in Messengers of Peace, because you can keep bouncing the back yourself and attack whenever, or Omega can just activate and then you can attack over Messenger of Peace with your Omega, or any other Constellars while Omega's on the field. Ryo's really not that great against dragons, but it does help them not search. But, I mean, it could still get destroyed pretty easily. And then you have Electric Virus, which is also good against Evil Swarms, because you can take their Ophion, because Ophion's a dragon. And this will stop a Dragosack first turn play. Veilers are also really great. I don't side them or main them. I'm not really a fan of Veiler. I do just fine without it, but it is pretty necessary in like a heavy format with dragons and stuff like that, so you can keep that in mind. And Fossil Dyna is pretty okay against dragons too, if you summon it and then have protection like Solemn, Judgment, Fiendish Chains, and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. So assume that we're going to go first against the turn dragon player. I would put in my 2 Messengers of Peace, my 2 Vanity's Emptiness, my 2 Goes and Match, and my 2 Mind Drain. And then if you're going second against them, I wouldn't advise running Mind Drain or even Vanity's Emptiness probably, just for the sole fact that you don't want to, like, having them second turn isn't really going to do you any justice. So maybe Messengers of Peace, Goes and Match, I would still keep in both of those cards, because they'll pretty much be always active, because this will always destroy cards, this will stop attacks, but you have to set up for this, and then you have to set up for this, so you could always have Electric Viruses, or Veilers, or Maxies, things that'll help you if you're going second, and even Fossil Dyna, so just that's pretty much how I would side. Not many people go over the side deck. I'm not really sure why, because I do think it's an important, like, for people to, like, people usually watch deck profiles, but they don't know how to side against the decks. They're just watching the deck profile and just copying it, and they don't know how the deck works, which is why I want to do this video, but I also want to educate to people to use the deck a little better. I'm not saying I'm a master at this deck, because I'm not, but it's always good to have people learn the deck a little better. This is generally what I can think of at the top of my head, so there's plenty of other things that you can do with Constellars during a match. I just don't remember everything, but when I play I do, so maybe there'll be a part 2 if you want to see a part 2, but I'll definitely put up some duels if you guys want to see them. sorry this video is a little long, but if you enjoyed it, then thank you for watching. If you want to see any other decks like Evil Swarms or how to use any other decks, I'll gladly put combos for them up too. Or if you just want to see me duel against any other deck, I can duel against Dragons, Prophecies, Evil Swarms, any of the meta decks, or even rogue decks like Samurais or whatever. If you want to see how my playstyle actually works and not me just talking in front of a camera. So, I thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment below if you have anything else to add, if I didn't go over anything cool, or maybe I don't know something and you want to tell me, and it can help my playstyle a little better. So, thank you guys for watching. Sorry it took so long, and sorry my camera ship isn't that well. I don't have a tripod, so I have to hold it. So, hope that doesn't bother you guys. But thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day.